get started this quickly, but we're starting a little early today. I didn't bring my tank top. I really wish I did. David Nuño, Raheel Ramzanali with the great Justin Reid in the show. What's up, Justin?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Appreciate you guys having me on the air.
Hey, look at that. The shelter in place hasn't impacted you. You still got the tank top body going. That's good.
Oh yeah, I'm actually we'll lift as soon as we finish up. Got to stay ready for the season at all times.
That's awesome, man. So before we get started talking about all the important topics that we have on deck, we always start our interviews with the same 5 questions we ask every single guest. All right, so you ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's go. Number 1, what is one song you wish everybody would listen to at least once in their life?
At least once in their life. I gotta go with J. Cole from 2014 Forest Hills Drives. Honestly, you could pick any one of those songs off that album. That whole album is fire from top to bottom.
Okay, the whole album gets a nomination. I'm with that. That's good. I'm okay with that. Hey, as a pro athlete, what is one thing you always have to have in your fridge?
One thing I always have to have in my fridge. I always have to have some yogurt.
What kind?
Like,
Greek?
No, not the drink. Man, and it slipped my mind too. I just bought some like literally 5 minutes ago.
Guarantee.
It starts with a C. I know that.
Justin, you've got to drink some Utopia too, right? You're part of the protein gang, right?
Some Utopia?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't drink much Utopia. I do have a couple supplements, some protein powders, muscle milk.
Got to go with the muscle milk.
Got to get that after a workout. Okay, what's one place you want to visit that you haven't had a chance to yet?
I want to go to Ibiza.
Okay.
In Spain. That's definitely on the list. And the other one I would say is Tokyo. I wanted to do that off season, but so some situations kind of prevented that.
Okay. Who's one person alive that you want to have coffee with?
Will Smith. I've always wanted to meet Will. Yeah, you remember watching him growing up on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I just love his acting skills. I think he's a great guy.
You know what's crazy? Yeah, Nuño.
I was going to say, I haven't seen the new Bad Boys, and I'm a huge Will Smith fan too, but I've got to see Bad Boys 3, but I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, yeah, you got to check it out, man. It's good. It's
what's crazy? All 3 of us are in different age ranges, and we all grew up with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like, we all watched it. Isn't that nuts how, the longevity of that show?
Yeah, it's timeless, man. I think kids probably still watching it today.
As they should be. Okay, number 5. Yeah, number 5, here we go. What one app do you want to delete off of your phone, but you just can't?
One app I want to delete off of my phone. Twitter. Actually, Instagram.
Ooh.
Because I spend way too much time on it. But I feel like I kind of have to be up to date on stuff that you see on social media, so I'm on it anyway. It helped me with my screen time.
I love how a few minutes ago, Justin, Raheel basically let you know that I'm like the grandfather of the group. He said 3 generations here watching The Fresh Prince. I may be 20 years older than you, but I think I still get down with it. So let's talk. There's a lot that I want to get with you, Justin, because I know that you are very socially conscious. You're an amazing player, a leader in that locker room, even as a young player. Even at your rookie year, some people looked at you. So we'll start off with these last couple of weeks, the protest and what they have meant to you, because your family has really been involved with this from the very beginning, with your brother Eric really having Colin's back and being one of the first to kneel.
Yeah, I've always been very close to the movement. Even back in 2016, I've felt the backlash of Colin, Eric protesting and the narrative being hijacked on, oh, it's about the flag, it's about this, it's about that, and it's about none of that. It was about police brutality. People. It's sad that the story became really trying to fight over the control of the narrative rather than what the actual issues were at hand. Which Colin repeatedly said over and over, but people still wanted to take it out of context and talk about how he was disrespecting the flag or whatever. My family's got emails, letters calling us terrorists because we're taking a knee on the flag. I've heard it all.
So when you got into the league, we were just a year removed from everything happening. was there any kind of discussion with anybody, in power, whether it be from the Texans side, agent side, anything like that, where they told you, hey, you shouldn't do this or you should do that regarding commenting on what your brother was doing and what was happening with the movement?
Yeah, I do think it actually played, because I am a socially conscious guy. I think it had an effect on kind of my draft status, what happened in the draft in the first place. And then even as I got to the league, no one, everyone was always very careful about how they worded things. No one directly said, don't kneel, don't do anything like that. But they're almost encouraging you not to do it, with the way that they're wording, like what you should do during the national anthem and things like that. And I don't want to dive too deep into the details of that. But it did feel like it wasn't an open space or conversation to be able to do that. And I feel like it was well known around the league between 2016 up to 3 weeks ago that if you were participating in any of that, you were potentially hurting your own career. You know what I mean? In the long run.
Justin, so now the nation, I hate to say it this way, but we've got the nation's attention, right? People are feeling impacted to change, to make some moves, even the ones that were silent before. But what's next? What has to happen?
I think that this is where we are right now. I think that we have went into the first stage and now we're exiting out of it. That first stage being the message is finally being received, has been delivered, and is being received. Two parts of conversation. People are telling their stories. People are talking about it. People are listening. People have their ears open. People are eager to help. There's a lot of raw emotion and raw energy going around, going in a whole bunch of different directions. And I think all that's great. That's the first step. I think the next step now is the actionables. You know what I mean? There's people that have been pointing the finger at so-and-so. You have some politicians trying to make it a political issue. It's not a political issue. It's a humanitarian issue. And I think everyone can agree that people think there needs to be some form of change and restructuring with the way that police conduct themselves. And I'm not chastising every officer on the field. I'm just talking about the police officers that need to be held accountable for killing innocent, unarmed, nonviolent people of all races, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, purple, green. It isn't exclusive to African Americans, although there is a tendency that it happens to African Americans more often. So that is really, I believe, the next step is that we need to start attacking ways to create change and not let it get to the point where we're just pointing the finger at saying, well, it's this person's fault, it's this person's fault. What's next though? You know what I mean? Okay, it doesn't matter. Really, how can we prevent the next victim? What's the next steps for that? Talking to our leaders in government, talking to the police chief where applicable. I think that's the next step for us.
And for you personally, what are you doing to help that? I know on social media, you're pointing out these important factors. You're telling people to do certain things. What else are you doing to help out and really capture that positive momentum to make these changes that you talked about?
Well, one of the biggest things that I'm starting to see happening, especially on social media and going around, is I'm trying to keep the focus on where it's supposed to be. And not because I've seen what happened in 2016 where the narrative gets hijacked. So one of the biggest issues for me personally is I'm trying to keep the movement and people's interpretations of the movement centered. I mean, I was in Austin this past weekend and I had a conversation with my Uber driver. He's a great guy. We talked like the entire time we were riding. It was a 20-minute drive. And he had some confusion on what the Black Lives Matter movement was versus the Antifa. He kind of grouped them together, and I was like, those aren't the same people. The rioters and the protesters are mutually exclusive and independent groups. They're not the same. Then I just had a couple conversations about them on the history of how the protest movement started, how Green Beret helped talk to Kaepernick about how kneeling was more respectful than sitting, and how the military does that for their fallen comrades, and it's still a way to show respect. I had a conversation about just the repetitive issues and how really the only thing that's changed in the last 50 years is that we have cameras to be able to capture the incidents and highlighting the different officers and disparities between sentencing between when if a African American is killed versus another race is killed. And by the end of the conversation, he actually ended up being like, oh, okay, I understand now. I never really was explained to it from that perspective. I never got that deep into it. So I think my job right now is to still continue to try and educate other people on the real meaning of the movement. I've been in contact with the Houston Texans and our PR staff. We're planning on trying to get on air, do a lot more vocal movements. And then I have teammates like Michael Thomas and Kenny Stills that have also been already working for the last 5 years doing work and just helping promote them and support them with how their movements are going too.
We're here talking to Justin Reid. Justin, you know this. I mean, from growing up in football and whatnot, the head coach of a football team is only loved when they win a Super Bowl. If not, there's going to be a lot of criticism. But last week, OB had some powerful words that I'm sure you saw and heard. Just what did that mean to your locker room to hear not only OB, but Cal, the entire organization really have you guys back?
Yeah, and it meant a lot. And I think that's a great first step. I mean, he had the message that he sent over to the public, and he also talked to us individually in a private closed door room and allowed us all to kind of talk about it and share our opinion and give our feelings on the current state of the country, how we feel, things that we can do to get better. And, they've been extremely supportive about it. There's things that I think still need questions that still need to be answered as far as like, and this isn't specifically to the Texans, but to the NFL as a whole, like there are players, for instance, like Kaepernick, for instance, like my brother, who are still jobless and facing consequences over the issues of this, even though, the NFL has come out and given a public apology that they were wrong for how they treated this movement in the first place. Yet these guys are still don't have jobs. I mean, Kaepernick, I know, has still been training tediously every year, just waiting on his opportunity. My brother set 2 franchise records last season, and then he's still cut. So there's a little bit of issues there. That's a little bit more personal. But even just credit to the Houston Texans organization. They've all been contacting me and they've been helping me get the message out, and they've been a very good listening ear on how we can improve the social relations and social issues of the country.
Was it surprising to you to see the NFL make the statement that they did last year because of all the reasons that you pointed out? In 2016, we're coming off an election where it seemed like the public opinion swayed one way and you were trying to appease that fan base. And now the NFL just openly coming out, especially Roger Goodell, talking about we were wrong. We made the mistake. We didn't listen last time, and now we will listen. And as you mentioned, like, yes, they made the statement, but what are they going to do from here? But was it still surprising to you that they came out and said it?
No, I don't feel like they had a choice but to take ownership of it, because it was at a point that they couldn't deny it anymore. It was taking the whole nation by storm. Had there not been riots and protests and everything basically hitting the fan, there wouldn't have been an apology. But there wasn't any choice but to, because at that point, it became the overwhelming public opinion of the nation that this is actually a problem. And at that point, it became more, quote unquote, in the best interest of the NFL to actually be on the side of right instead of just trying to dismiss it.
Justin, one more on this topic, and then we'll move on to some football stuff. I just got to ask, do you think Colin or your brother are in the league next year?
I believe they deserve a chance. I believe they at the very least deserve the chance to prove themselves. And I'm not saying they deserve to be on the team just because of who they are, although I kind of do. But I think they deserve the chance to prove themselves, to show that they are the player that's ready to be on an active 53-man roster. And I think when they get that opportunity, that they will prove that.
Now, with your brother, I thought that was a sign of a little bit of change, right? Just a little bit when he was signed after everything. And as you mentioned, had a fantastic year. And I was like, okay, maybe the NFL is changing just a little bit. And then he was cut going into this offseason. But were you surprised that your brother was even signed going into last season?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I was extremely happy when I found out the news and I found out that I'll actually get to play him for the first time. I mean, that was the coolest moment I've ever had when I got to play my big brother on the same field. We had like 50 family members there, half of them on the sideline for the warm-ups. I wasn't surprised when he got the opportunity that he did what he did. I wasn't surprised about that, but I was really happy when he did get signed by a team.
All right, Justin. So how are you feeling, man? How's the shoulder? How's everything going with you and getting ready for next season?
Shoulder feels unbelievable. Me and a couple of my teammates, especially me and Bradley Rowe, we've been spending a lot of time in Phoenix, training with this guru, Will Sullivan, who is like just a real technician on just the art of DB play, man coverage, zone coverage, as well as me always training with Ryan Clark, who I train with every single year. The combination of working with those two guys have been really great actually for my growth and my confidence heading into this season. Confidence has never been an issue, but I just feel ready to take on the next stage of the next caliber level of bringing up my play. I feel like I get to head into the season fearless, healthy. The shoulder is strong. I'm continuing to get stronger, and that's what I'm really so excited about.
What's it been like with, obviously we're in a pandemic, everything is a 180 to what you have been used to in your NFL off seasons. What's it been like doing the Zoom calls, staying in touch with teammates, with OB? What has that all been like?
Yeah, definitely different. I mean, just like everyone else, the first month of it all was very, very weird. You know, all types of technical issues. I couldn't figure out where to put the Zoom ID or how to do the passwords and stuff like that. You get used to it and you learn like everything else, right? So throughout the process, especially Coach Weave on the defensive side of the ball, he's done an awesome job, and I'm excited for him to be the DC of keeping guys engaged with the meetings, being very teachable, even though we're so far apart. Now, I wish I got to hang out with my teammates more face to face, so that way you can build that chemistry, because that's also important too. But you know, every team is facing the same issue right now, so we're just going to combat it as best we can.
Justin, this team came close last year. Obviously, it was a tough one against KC. You guys are going to open up against them next year, but this team is going to look a little different than last year, right? What do you think? I mean, you guys are different. Obviously, no Hop, which is scary in some regards, but you've added some good pieces as well.
Offensively, I think that's the biggest change that everyone in the world recognizes, that we don't have Hop, who is a irreplaceable player. I mean, he's a great guy, phenomenal wide receiver, top 2 in the league, probably not number 2. Honestly, 100% not number 2. But what we are bringing back, though, is just a wealth of experience. We brought in 3 new guys, you know, Randall Cobb and other guys that are going to come in and be able to spread the ball more. The advantage, I think, is that it'll be harder to lock in on just one guy and just have to double team one player like Hopkins the whole game. We'll be able to spread the ball out. It'll be harder to game plan and try and move pieces around. Defensively, we bring back a lot of experience. I mean, I got another partner for safety for the 3rd year in a row, but you know, I've trained with Eric before, and he's a good player, and he's going to come in and be ready to compete and contribute to our wins. So I'm extremely excited about the opportunity for revenge. My mouth still has a taste in from that playoff game. I won't forget it. You know, if you follow me on social media, I said it before, I refuse to let it go. It still fires me up to this day. So I think it's going to be a very exciting game for both sides. I think, you know, the fireworks are going to be flying, and it's going to be fun to watch.
It's going to be awesome. The fireworks are going to be flying, but there might not be anybody in there, Justin. That's going to be, you know, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait. We're going to have some football, but there's going to be a lot of echoing because I don't think we're going to have many fans in there, if any fans. Have you guys even started to mentally deal with that yet? Like what that's going to be? It's going to feel like a adult rec league game on a Tuesday night that we play in.
100%. I mean, no, I haven't thought about it the whole lunch. I've been watching like the UFC fights.
Yeah.
And basketball's coming back soon. And I was kind of interested to be able to actually listen to what the guys on the court are saying, you know, if they're trash talking each other, what they're saying to each other. I thought that would be really cool, and I'm sure it'll be cool for fans watching our games too. But yeah, I haven't even really thought about that much. Not that I'll need it for the first 2 games of the seasons playing Kansas City and Baltimore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll definitely be different.
It's gonna be hard knocks all over again with OB. No, I'm kidding. So yeah. Justin, I've talked to you a little bit about it in the locker room, But you started off in soccer, right? Soccer was one of your first loves. I'm a huge soccer guy. Just what does soccer mean to you as an athlete now? Like, what was able to do for you?
Huge. I think it's great for foot-eye coordination, building in all those fundamental skills that you need as an athlete, building the baseline. I think all kids when they're young need to play more than just one sport. You know, specializing too early might lead to deficiencies in one part of your game versus another. And if you play a whole bunch of things, you're getting exposed to a whole bunch of different movements, and that'll make you a better overall athlete in the future. Like, I love soccer to this day. Um, I still kick from time to time, you know, still waiting to see if I can get an opportunity to convince Tracy if he'll let me kick an extra point in the middle of the preseason or something like that. That'll be a highlight. But soccer was awesome. Always said if I grew up in Europe, I'd probably be playing for like PSG or something right now. But I was born here and I fell in love with football, and here I am today.
What position would you play?
Attacking mid.
Okay, attacking mid. I like that.
He knows soccer if he says attacking mid.
Yeah, you know, I want to be around the ball. I used to play a lot of forward, but I want to have a little bit more action, being that attacking mid role.
Attacking mid is like the quarterback, a point guard. It's a guy is doing everything. It's getting everyone in the right sets.
100%.
Hey, Justin, just what about off the field? I know we talked about the social stuff, but you're doing a lot of stuff beyond our social issues. You're helping kids out. You're always involved in so many different avenues. What are some of the things you're working on?
Yeah, mentoring kids, being involved with the next generation has always been a big deal for me, because I've always had good mentors around me. So I kind of want to pay it forward to the next generation. So I work a lot with Kids Meals, which is an organization for childhood hunger, specifically in the Houston area. I work a lot with the Candlelighters, combating childhood cancer and kind of giving assistance to the families with children dealing with those, parking, food, vouchers to the football games. And then recently, too, with the whole COVID response with the medical field, I thought it'd be important to try and help out some future medical students and do a laptop drive and donate a bunch of laptops to promising medical students who might be struggling to afford one, and help them be able to get their studies done, especially since everyone's doing Zoom meetings and stuff like that. If you have a old computer, it could really set you behind. So I kind of wanted to give them a little bit of inspiration and hope. And I'm working alongside my friend Scott at HEB. He's donated a couple laptops, and also with Microsoft, who've matched me in how many laptops I bought for them. So we're going to donate them to some promising students coming up later this month. And that's going to be cool for me to do that.
Man, that's awesome, dude. They keep up the great work. This off season has been interesting, and with everything going on, I can't wait to see how different our country is going to look a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. You know, these are exciting times, and it's change that is needed. And it's good to see you not only doing it on a public platform, but also on an individual level. Which, real quick, I wanted to ask you about this. I saw a couple of your threads where, you know, you're going after people that have a prominent voice, and you're not afraid to help clear that narrative up. Has that been like? Do you feel the stress and pressure from that because you get so many responses?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel any stress or pressure because I feel that I'm just speaking my truth with it. You know what I mean? And like I said earlier, it's just a battle to control the narrative, the battle to clear up the facts. I'm not trying to push one group or another, Democrats, Republicans. Like I said, you can check out my thread on my comments on Candace Owens and some of what she said. And, you know, I've just felt the need that I got to clear this up because she's changing the message of what is really happening. And I'm just trying to keep it consistent in a straight line. So there isn't a whole lot of pressure with it. It's just, as far as me, it's just keeping people informed and just telling the facts.
Yeah.
Justin, I try not to read any of the comments. Well, actually, I always read the comments on Facebook, and I get angry. But I usually try not to relay the messages to our guests. But I'm going to read this one to you because I think it does sum you up quite well. Milton says, this dude sounds like a young professor, lawyer, and a book author. He's deep in knowledge and wisdom for a young guy. And I've thought that since day one, since we met after you were drafted, right the day after, basically. You are such an eloquent young man. You're a leader in that locker room, and you're always so great to deal with. So thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate that a lot, man. I wish you guys the best. You know, this is a moment of growth in our country, and we got to take advantage of the momentum, and we can all grow and get better as a whole community.
Appreciate you, my friend. We'll talk soon.
All right, buddy. You guys take care.
All right,
See
see you
ya.
there, Justin.
Justin Reid, who is just awesome, man. Just I love talking to him in the locker room. We talk about a lot of different stuff. He's just well spoken. He's just smart. Somebody on the thread said he wasn't very smart. The dude went to Stanford. Okay, he's extremely smart. Okay, you could add up both of our SATs. Raheel and his probably his is going to be higher. Like he's great. And
Do you remember your SAT score?
It wasn't as high as I want to say it was. You know, like
No.
in my head, I remember like a 1300, but I know it was lower.
It's so funny. Remember, like the SAT score would define you, and you're like, oh my gosh, my SAT score is blank. And then you get to college, and you're like, no one cares about your SAT scores once you get into college. And then when you're in college, you're like, oh my gosh, my grades are going to define me.
GPA.
Yeah, GPA. And then you leave college, and nobody. You know, when was the last time somebody asked me about my near perfect GPA?
When?
It was when I graduated college for my first job, and that was it. And even
Just
then,
the
they
first
didn't
one.
care. Yeah, just the first one.
Just get a job and move on. You know, that's the bottom line. And honestly, look, I know you loved your education at the University of Texas. I loved mine at Texas A&M, the top school in the state. I loved it, right? But a lot of what I've learned on the job, right?
Yep.
They set us both up for success. There's no doubt about it. But why are we making this about school, by the way?
I don't know. I got sidetracked. We were talking about Justin, and he brought up an interesting comment, man, about his draft, where he was drafted. He was a third rounder, right? The Texans got a steal in the draft, and he believes one of the reasons he was knocked to the third round because he was graded as an early second, mid-second rounder at the latest. You know, and some people had him as a first rounder. One of the big reasons he thinks it was because he was so socially active and socially conscious. And then, of course, his brother, Eric, being part of the kneeling movement, he thinks it hurt him. And that was fascinating to hear. And like, yeah, you know, it makes sense.
Let me read this from Michelle because I try not to get too involved in here. But it says, Michelle says, it's not your job or the place to conduct the protest. Goodell had nothing to do whether a team hires him. They are all individual employers for each team. His job is performance, like we all have to maintain and keep our job. Determines whether a team hires or lets him go, just like everyone else who has a job. And there's a little bit more. What I'll say to that is, yeah, you're right. The difference is players have clout and players have leverage, and they use that leverage. Just like an actor has leverage, just like a politician sometimes has leverage, right? There's leverage that people can use, and they maximize their platform. And I think that's why it became a thing. Where can you make this platform happen? You can disagree with where he did it, but the bottom line is what he did is now what we're talking about. The exact reason and how symbolic was the way George Floyd died was from a guy on his knee.
Yeah, and look, people are going to have different opinions about it, and you know, I don't know what Michelle does for a living. I know what I do for a living, and I know that my job affords me the right to, you know, speak out and use my platform. Athletes, the same thing. And just think about when I used to work in a 9-to-5 job in an office setting. You know, of course, I'm not coming to work and taking a kneel, you know, during the national anthem because one, they're not playing the national anthem there. But we act like in our normal 9-to-5 jobs, people don't voice their opinions as well. You know, like, yes, performance matters if you're an accountant or a social media manager like I was when I was working in an office space. But it wasn't like I would just come to work and never say anything. Like, I would talk to people. My opinions would be heard. And, you know, depending on how socially progressive your company is, you're you know, helping with charities and foundations and fundraisers, whatever it is. So people in their normal jobs also do it. You know, it's just, as you mentioned, we don't have a big enough platform like an athlete or a professional athlete or an actor or somebody else.
Well, and I do voice my opinion in the office often. I believe Bob Slovak and Greg Bailey do not change the paper and the printer often enough. I feel like I'm always the one, and the toner, and like if there's a jam, I feel like I'm the one, and I'm sure they feel the same way, and so does Joe Gleason. But hey, I'm really excited. So while we have a little bit of an audience left, I'm really excited about the story I'm doing today at 6:00.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, we all know about Jose Cruz, right? A legend and one of the greatest Astros player of all time. And he coached for them for years as well. His son, Jose Jr., which we had on our radio show many, many times, played in the bigs, the Blue Jays, the Astros as well. Well, they both were major leaguers. Well, now Jose Jr.'s son, Trey, who plays at Rice with his brother Antonio, well, Trey is going to be drafted probably today or tomorrow. He's expected to be a first or second rounder. All right. So I went out on Monday, and I love to say this out loud so people give me more credit at work on my day off to shoot a story. It was actually, I would pay to be in this environment. It was so awesome. The whole family was working out together, getting ready just because that's what they do. Senior was hitting balls. Junior was there. Trey and Antonio were there. And then their little 8-year-old cousin was making plays that you and I could not make. Okay. So I interviewed them. I'm going to do a story on them today, just getting ready for the draft. It's today at 6. But just what a wonderful baseball family. They love each other. They practice together. They have a similar work ethic. And Trey told me he wants to be the best Cruz of all. Think about that. I mean, we all know what Cheo did. We know what Junior did. So that's even if you're the worst. I told him, like, dude, even if you're the worst of that bunch, you're the top 1% in this country.
Yeah, and that's so fascinating that he decided to play baseball, because we always hear about, the son of a legend. Like, they rarely make it, right? Like, think about Michael Jordan's sons. Think about any other legend. So for Cruz Jr. to make it, it was like, whoa. And then now you're in the third generation, and Trey's going to be, as you mentioned, a high pick in the MLB draft. Dude, that is so cool. And the odds of that happening are so astronomically low that it makes the story even better. Just the fact that he's going to get drafted makes it good.
So one of the things that Trey told me, which I thought was awesome, his coach in the beginning, it's not him anymore, but Wayne Graham was Trey's coach in the beginning. He obviously has ties with both Junior and with Senior, and he's like, "You're the worst." There was a game where he said, "You're the worst of the family." And apparently the next day, Trey had like an incredible game. And he said, after that day, I won his respect, and I was an indispensable part of the lineup. It's just funny how certain buttons can be pressed to get the most out of players. So I'm excited about that story, and I'm excited to track his journey because great family man. I just really enjoy doing it. I feel that COVID has been a very scary thing for our country, but it has allowed me in sports to explore stories that sometimes I wouldn't have the time to do. And this one I would have had time to do, but like it's just been fun to be able to tell features beyond the game, because we all, we got to know what happened in the game. And Raheel, in a couple of weeks, the Dynamo are going to be playing, right? I'm going to be talking about that. I love that tournament idea. We have the Astros, hopefully in quotes, or no, hopefully not in quotes, but whatever. They may be playing in the middle of July if things start going in this direction, right? So all these things are trending into a more realistic sports world that we're used to covering.
You think MLB's coming back?
I do, man.
I ask you every week, and it seems like we get away from it coming back. Even worse, week after week.
But after the most recent response by the Players Union, I am more optimistic. So at one point, didn't the players ask for like 120 games? And then the owners wanted 50, right? Now we're closer, right? The owners, whatever, 70-something games, and the players now want 89. The big holdup is still
the prorated salary, yeah.
The prorated salary.
It's always about the money.
It's about the money, but it's getting closer. So the owners, the last proposal was 75% of the prorated salary. If we keep meeting a little bit more in the middle, we're going to get some baseball, and I feel like it's moving in that direction. So if you're going to ask me today, yes, I think there will be baseball. Too much money to lose. Too much ranking in sports. You don't want to not have a season. If everybody was out because of COVID, that's one thing. But if everybody else has found a way, the MLS, I'll give you a little background. The MLS had just agreed upon a new collective bargaining agreement in February. It was not ratified. COVID comes. That agreement, out the door. And the players are not happy because now all the things that they were promised, all the money that was around for the owners is gone. But they found a way to come back. Football, they've had the luxury of waiting, not having to start their season. The only thing that was kind of disrupted was their OTA programs and mini camps and the draft, right? But like baseball, it was supposed to start. I had just gone to spring training. I had literally been back maybe a week or two. I forget. I was there the first couple of weeks. They were about to start. And here we are, still no games, no nothing, but at least they're working out.
And the NBA is coming back on the 31st in the Disney bubble, so they'll be doing that. That's coming back for sure. They figured out a way. Man, it would be such a bad look. And then, of course, all the negotiations from the MLB side being so public, man, I think the owners and the players are taking a big hit here publicly in in the fan sentiment department.
Hey, and this is how we lose a lot of our viewers, but I am so excited about Sunday. You know what's happening Sunday?
What's Sunday?
Real Madrid is playing, my friend. So I'm going to get some more
Finally.
international soccer.
That's good. The Premier League is coming back also, right? Everyone's back.
Coming back, I believe, a week from today. I believe it's the 14th or the 17th. I think it's come back. So,
Okay.
So we got UFC back. The Dash are coming back soon. We got the Dynamo coming back. We got the Rockets coming back. The Texans are going to be fine now. If it's going to be 25% of the stadium or not.
But they're reporting also. Players are going to be reporting pretty soon here, hopefully. So workouts will be in person. That's a step as well.
Do you think we'll be able to watch practices? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. There's no way. I think most media availability, like the UFC has been doing, it's going to be on a Zoom call or a different avenue where, you guys can conduct your work from home, and we don't want you bringing your germs, and we don't want you being exposed to anything just in case, even though everyone's being tested.
Look, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, being, and everybody at home is going to be like, whatever, bro, but being at home, watching Texans practice on a Zoom and interviewing them on a Zoom sounds so much nicer than 110-degree weather standing out there. I would rather be doing the practice, which would drain me, than just standing there and just the heat taking. You know how it is, man. By the end of those interviews or those practices, you're just like, and then you start your work day. Then you have to do the show. It's a lot. So
it's going to be nice, to be able to just do it from the house.
Anything else going on that we need to touch on? Anything?
No. I just for those people that are still listening, I was very proud of the work that we did with the interviews with Nate Boyer and Christian Covington. If you guys want to check that out, you can go back into the archives on YouTube or Facebook, or if you want to listen on your own time and listen on the audio side, just look up the Raheel Show podcast. If you just search my name on your podcast app, it comes up, and those interviews are in order, so you can listen to those, spread it around. The Nate Boyer interview was fantastic. I also did an interview with Juan Adams, who's a local MMA fighter, and he wrote a really beautiful letter about racial injustice. It was an open letter, so if you want to hear that conversation as well, try to get as much information as you can. Try to learn as many different sides as you can where we are in the country. That's what we need.
I didn't get to tell you this on the show Sunday, but just it made me think of it. I got to hang out with, and I say hang out, I was in attendance with Adrian Peterson and Alex Bregman on Friday of last week. I did a live shot. Adrian was having his big event. They were delivering vegetable boxes. Every time I've dealt with Adrian Peterson, regardless of what people think of him from some of the prior stories, he is such a gentleman. Alex Bregman is too, by the way. Alex is great to deal with. But Peterson, a guy that we've all seen here in Houston because he lives here in the offseason, hasn't played here, but he is just a gentleman, and so is his wife. So I want to give them some props for what they're doing in this community, because they're always working hard. And I didn't shake his hand this time.
Well, no, that's one of the benefits. You didn't have to, because it's socially acceptable not to shake hands right now. And
so
that saved your hand. Yeah, what happened?
So not with him, but with Cheo. Okay, I had to do Spanish accent. Sorry, with Jose Cruz Sr. So he shows up, and we start talking in Spanish like we always do. And that's my move. Okay, guys, for those who know, that's how I get in good with the guys, right? Raheel sees somebody wearing MJs or Jordans, he starts talking about the Jordans, and they become friends. I see Latin players, I talk Spanish. It's what I do, okay? And it's just comfortable for them and for me. He comes up to me, we shake hands, okay? I forgot, momentarily, we shake hands. And then within moments, his daughter runs out of the car with a sanitizer bottle. She's like, no. She gives us some sanitizer just to remind us. She goes, we're not going to wait 3 months in isolation to get COVID on the first day back. So it's funny how people forget. They're like, hey, it's too late now.
Yeah, you're right. That happened to me. I saw a few I was riding my bike, and I stopped to talk to a few people, and I accidentally offered a fist bump, and 2 out of 3 accepted the fist bump, and the third one was like, COVID, and I was like, oh, that's right. That's right. Yes, obviously, and I feel so dumb for even doing a fist bump now, but and by the way, shout out to you. You retweeted a volunteer opportunity in Mission Bend. Yeah. I went on Saturday morning, and it was really cool to
go there. You were there, yeah.
Yeah, so it was nice to make sure you guys are going helping out your communities and helping out these food distribution points that a lot of communities are setting up, because a lot of families still need help. A lot of people are still unemployed, so make sure you're volunteering if you have the time and the effort, if you can.
Let me leave you with these 2 final thoughts that have nothing to do with anything. I watched the Epstein documentary.
I need to start it. Crazy.
Bro. I don't know why I never like really soaked up that information when it was happening. It was here, right? I knew it was happening. Man, like there's just a lot of layers to that story that I don't even know how to tackle, but it's such a fascinating is not the right word. It's a disgusting slash interesting just layers that were happening. It was just fascinating. So I highly recommend that if you get a chance. And I also watched Joe Rogan to talk to Snowden. Now it was I think 6 months ago or a year ago. And that's another one of those stories. Like there's stories that you know about, but you don't like, we're in the sports world. We dig deep into, Justin Reid's time at Stanford. It's just fascinating. Some of the things that are happening in this country that I don't think I gave it enough time.
And the Edward Snowden book is fantastic. Permanent Record.
It's brand new, right?
Great.
The last 5 months.
It came out right when that interview was happening, and it goes even deeper into what he talked about with Joe Rogan and giving you specific examples. Man, it's a great book. Look, I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on politically. It's just an informative book about what's happening in the government.
We're two sports guys, right? We have, we're not done when it comes to topics in the world. We follow it, but we're just here having fun. And I love that we've been able to have some fun with guys and also get to the meat of some really good stories or tough stories out there. And look, we're just here to help moderate a discussion. And I think the players that have come on have been wonderful about it. So we appreciate that.
Yep. That's
it,
not
man. Too professional, didn't it?
That was, but you know what? That's what we needed to end this.
Really?
Nah,
Can I just
not
say
really.
Peace.
I'll talk to you when I talk to you, buddy.
All right, little buddy. I'll probably give you a post-show call at some point. You know that.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.